G'day everybody, Max right here, and today possibly one of the most important videos I've ever made, I think. This is the intersection of four incredible conspiracies coming your way. All happened in the last 48 hours. And of course, it all starts with this huge bombshell from the New York Post, which was basically a data dump, a hard drive dump of Hunter Biden's laptop computer containing on there evidence of grotesque criminality on the part of the entire Biden family, including, of course, former vice president and current presidential nominee, Joe Biden. And I think you're going to see enough evidence here where you're going to be saying, like, okay, there's certainly far more likely than not that serious crimes have been committed here. But what is so interesting and so beautiful about this particular instance is that it's actually within 48 hours, we've seen three other major conspiracies show their hand, reveal themselves to us. We've seen big tech work in ways that if you haven't seen it yet, it's just incredible what the lengths they will go to suppress this information from the American people, and in doing so, protecting a criminal cartel. We've got the mainstream media completely walking away from this topic and not doing it, again, doing their best to hide this from the American people, and the FBI, law and order, the people, the institutions that we depend on to put bad guys in jail. They're just caught doing absolutely nothing, sitting on information yet again. So I've been red pilling, for lack of a better word. I've been helping people see this both in my private life and on YouTube for many, many years, showing the criminality that is Washington, D.C. and all of the different satellite criminality around that, like in mainstream media, etc. I've been doing this for many, many years. And as I do it, the one thing that I notice overwhelmingly is that there's a tremendous resistance to hear it. People don't want to see it, don't want to hear it, they don't want to believe it. You want to believe that the FBI is there to put bad guys in jail. You want to believe that big tech and Twitter and Facebook they're helping you connect with people and get to more information and get to the truth faster. You want to believe that journalists are there to help to hold power to truth. To hold truth to power. And not there to conspire with them and conceal their crimes. You want to believe all these things. And whenever I show someone a piece of evidence, like, look at this, it's right here, it's there, it's on the internet, check it out. They say, look, it can't be true, because if it were true, that would mean that the FBI would have arrested them by now. That would mean that the mainstream media, journalists all over the country would be going ballistic about this. I'd see it on every news channel. And they can't possibly believe it, because believing it means the collapse of not just one, not just two, not just three, but several really important belief systems that they currently believe about the world. And so they can't believe what they see that is right in front of them, because it is just too taxing for the subconscious to deal with that much shift in reality. And so for that reason and many others, a famous quote from Mark Twain, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. And hopefully at the end of this presentation, you're going to really understand that indeed all of America, the vast majority of us, are absolutely being fooled. And you're in very good company. You're with a lot of other people if you were one of these people. And you have to understand you're a victim of the most sophisticated propaganda and disinformation complete strategy that the world has ever seen. Okay, we are talking about billions and billions of dollars going into research and psychology and branding and major newspapers and television networks, etc., to accomplish what they accomplish. So don't treat yourself too harshly, but watch this with an open mind, and we'll see where it takes us. Let's see if you can come up with the same conclusions that I did, or if you agree with them, or if you disagree with them, of course, let me know in the comments below how you feel. Okay, where does this story start? This man, John Paul Mac Isaac, sorry, there's four components of that name. John Paul Mac Isaac, a humble electronics repair person, computer repair person. One day in April of 2019, Hunter Biden walks in with several laptops that are broken. He says, "Can you please fix them?" This gentleman says, "Yep, sure. Here's the terms of service that I operate. Go ahead and sign this." Hunter Biden signs that contract. The contract says that if you don't make payment for fixing these laptops, then they become the property of the store. Okay, that's important for information that we're going to see later on. Okay, so that's how this came to be. After several calls, Hunter Biden never comes and makes the payment, never comes and picks up the laptops. The laptops now become property of this gentleman. This gentleman then goes through and looks at the laptop in more detail, and he finds evidence of criminality on that. Now, this screenshot's actually taken from an interview he was in. I've watched that interview. He seems like quite a humble, blue-collar guy, not necessarily the most sophisticated in the world. He understands that he's got Hunter Biden, son of Vice President Joe Biden, very important person, very, very powerful people. He understands he's got evidence of him committing crimes. He gets a little bit scared and reaches out to probably someone he perceives as a little bit more sophisticated, a friend of his. And the friend of his gives him this advice. He says, listen, you've got evidence of a crime. You are obligated to send this to the FBI or the authorities in some way and share this information. However, says the very wise person, I would be very, very scared if I were you. You are dealing with very, very powerful people. You might find yourself in harm's way. You could get murdered. You could get Seth Riched, for those of people who know the reference. Fear strikes this person. He makes several copies. The person that advises, one way is to protect yourself, make several copies of this and distribute it to several other people, organizations, and that way there's no reason coming after you. There's just the information's out there. He takes that advice. One of the people he sends it to is former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. This is President Trump's attorney, one of, and Giuliani is one of the first people to go through the copies of this and really investigate what is in Hunter Biden's laptop. Basically, we see there's pictures, there's emails, there's a whole bunch of things, and we haven't seen all of it yet. They're going to do this drip feed thing that they so often do, where they're drip feeding information out. They've released several photos, but it basically, according to Giuliani, who's seen the entire lot, and the photos that we've seen so far, it depicts Hunter Biden as a crack addict. You see there on the right, he is asleep with a crack pipe in his mouth. And he is basically just a degenerate party boy, crack addict, and he's been living this life for years and years and years. We also know on the historical record he was dishonorably discharged from the military for the crack offenses that he got busted at there. So that's all congruent and consistent with his life. Also, pardon me, some important texts. And so there's text messages, there's emails, there's lots of things in there. Here, I think, is probably the most important one. This is from Hunter Biden to, is it his sister or something like that, or daughter? I forget who, but this is in the words of Hunter Biden. I love you all, but I don't receive any respect, and that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, referring to Joe Biden, and several times throughout the information that we've got, Joe Biden is referred to as Pop. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give half your salary. So what he's suggesting here is that Pop, Joe Biden, collects half of his salary. And in other areas, in other pieces of evidence we see from other family members. There's Joe Biden's brother, here is Joe Biden's son, and Joe Biden is collecting half of the salary of other family members, okay? Why? Why is that so? Well, for that you need to understand a little bit more background, a little bit of information. For a long time now, there has been a lot of accusations floating around that Joe Biden is doing deals with China, he's doing a deal with Ukrainian gas companies, and he is basically selling American taxpayers money, he is selling special privileges, and he is taking bribes along the way. Now, because of his position as a public official, he can't take those bribes directly, and he funnels it through his son, Hunter Biden, his brother, and other members of his family. The money goes through them, and as this text reveals, he takes it back later. He collects half the salaries and half of the things coming through other people. Now, how much money are we talking about? Well, in this particular instance, we have the paperwork that Hunter Biden, for over the space of about 5 years, collected $1 million per year from this this Ukrainian oil company called Burisma. Okay, we have that information prior to this dump. So here becomes a very, very important intersection for the viewers here. What is the most likely scenario, in your opinion, of what's happening in this instance? Option one, Hunter Biden, the person who's living on a crack pipe and is an absolute derelict, does not speak Ukrainian, has absolutely zero experience in mining, gas, the energy fields. He gets paid about $5 million over 5 years by a Ukrainian company to perform services. How is he worth this money? What is he doing? What is he providing? What skill set does he bring to the table? Why is Hunter Biden receiving this money? Okay, and then he receives it. If it was valid money, if he is performing some function, if that's his job, if that's if he's providing all the services to the Ukrainian company, why is Joe Biden taking half of his salary, according to Hunter Biden, right? So option one, Hunter Biden is performing legitimate work for a company that he knows absolutely nothing about, doesn't speak the native language of the company, and is a crack pipe smoking degenerate for all intents and purposes. Option one. Option two, Joe Biden is selling either money, secrets, special privileges, mining rights, we don't know, to the Ukrainian gas company. And the Ukrainian gas company is not paying the bribes directly, but paying it through Hunter Biden. These are the two options. Now, before you make the decision, there's probably one other very important piece of information that needs to be seen. The Ukrainian authorities, their special prosecutor was investigating Joe Biden for corruption on exactly this topic. And what Joe Biden did was he used billions of dollars of taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, that was going to be used to guarantee Ukrainian loans, and said, the $1 billion that we've promised you, you're not going to get it unless you fire the prosecutor that is investigating me for my crimes and criminality. If you haven't seen that, it is absolutely incredible footage. Here it is now.
So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, what, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
A solid man has been put in place. You just saw Joe Biden withholding your money and using it to bribe Ukraine to end an investigation into his criminality. Okay, there's your choices. Legitimate Hunter Biden performing services for a gas company which he knows absolutely nothing about, that are so valuable they're worth about $5 million over the course of 5 years. Or Joe Biden, corrupt, giving privileges to Ukrainian gas companies and accepting bribes through back channels for the husband. They are your choices. I think, this is for you to say, I think anybody with a modicum of deductive reasoning, with a slither of intellect, is going to suggest that more than likely there's some corruption going on here. And again, there's more information coming out from this hard drive dump. According to Rudy Giuliani, there's deals with China going on, similar kind of money flows coming back for the ridiculous trade deals that America has done with China over the years, and just giving away our intellectual property, letting them steal our intellectual property, letting these ridiculous trade deficits run up, and all of the horrific things that have been going on with trade in regards to China over the last 20, 30 years. Okay, conspiracy number one, that's for you guys to decide. Is there a criminal crime family called, in Joe Biden as the leader of it, is the Don of it, if you will, that's been working out of Washington there. Okay, let's leave that one there. Next, well, in order for this to be true, well, hang on, have you heard about it yet? And maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Why isn't this everywhere? This is the biggest political scandal we've seen in the history of the world, with an incredible amount of evidence. Saying, why have we not heard about this? Nonetheless, this guy is not some former VP, and that's the end of the story. He's in retirement. This guy is currently running to be president of the United States. He should be one of the most vetted human beings on the planet. People, the American people want to know this, need to know this, and yet it is getting hidden from them. So how is it getting hidden from them? So this story broke 48 hours ago. Almost instantly, Twitter started suppressing the story. Twitter and Facebook together started suppressing the story. And now we're getting into conspiracy number 2. So this is an unsent tweet. You can see in the top right-hand corner, it's an unsent tweet. And when you go to send this story, sharing this story from the New York Post, Twitter tells you, we can't complete this request because the link has been identified by Twitter or our partners as being potentially harmful. So this link got banned. No one was allowed to share this link on Twitter. This story was being suppressed almost immediately from when it broke. Not just that. From CNBC, Facebook and Twitter make editorial decisions to limit the distribution of story claiming to show smoking gun emails related to Biden and his son. Not just that, not just not allowing people to share a post. Breaking, the White House press secretary had her account shut down. It has been locked because she was trying to get the word out about this. Then the Republicans in Congress, congressional Republicans, put it on a government website, the Republicans judiciaryhouse.gov. They went and put the story on there and the evidence on there. Twitter started warning people that you don't listen to your Congress people. Don't listen to them. They're dangerous. This information is false. We're going to suppress it. And eventually, about a day later, Jack Dorsey said straight blocking of URLs was wrong. Now, this is very, very important. He's not suggesting blocking the URLs were wrong. He's just saying straight blocking and not providing reasons were wrong. And so Twitter eventually ended up giving reasons. So we couldn't verify the source. We mean, well, what if it was fake? We don't want to be responsible for disseminating fake information. And is this laptop even legally in possession of this John Paul Mac Isaac guy or Giuliani? It could have been illegally obtained. We can't verify this. We have to suppress it. That was the story offered. Even though we know that it was in their legal possession. I told you that story earlier. And it's very important, it's now been 48 hours, the Biden campaign has not suggested that these emails, these pictures, they are not suggesting they are a fake or hoax in any way, shape, or form. So from that, we can deduce that these are in fact real. They've got real pictures of Joe Biden in there, and this is legitimate. So the reasons he gives are absolutely false. But what's even more telling is the fact that it's not real. This is not Twitter policy. Last month, New York Times published President Trump's personal tax returns, which it illegally obtained. Tax and all financial records are legally protected private information. There's no way to have these things, and there's no way to legally have these things unless President Trump gives you permission to do it. Yet, still today on Twitter, these links are there. You can go and find these things. You can find his tax returns. They're illegally obtained. They're done behind his back. They reveal personal information. All the things they claim about this thing off of Hunter's laptop, and yet you can go and get them right now on Twitter. And there's a history. A few months ago, there was a secret recording of Melania Trump released by a disloyal friend. It's still there on Twitter. We've just had 3 years, nearly 4 years of non-stop leaks of classified information, of bogus, false, classified hearing information about the nonsense Russia scam that Trump was a part of. All of these things have just been throttled up and trending in Twitter. No attempt to slow them down, remove them because they're illegally obtained, hurt someone's feelings, it's bad for someone. This is exclusively happening when it hurts a criminal cartel senior member. That's who it's harmful to. It's harmful to the entire criminal cartel, and it's being held back by Twitter, by Facebook, throttled back. The information is withheld from the American people to the best of the ability of big tech. So I guess it's up to you guys to decide now. Conspiracy number 2. Is Twitter and Facebook operating in good faith, trying their very best to keep sensible information in the hands of the American people and withhold potentially false or harmful information, and they apply it evenly? Or is this a nonsense excuse And these guys are co-conspirators. They are there to suppress the information of their senior criminal cartel leader, and they're trying to protect him and themselves by withholding this information. And if you were to allow your mind to run wild, do they specifically allow knowingly false information, which there's an abundance of evidence of, that Trump, and we'll actually get to more of that later, that Trump is involved in Russiagate and all the nonsense scandals that we've heard over the last 3-4 years. One more conspiracy. What is it that you think is the most likely scenario? And next we get to media. So where's the media in all of this? Well, strangely absent. It's now been 48 hours since this story has broke. Joe Biden, as usual, hiding in his basement, not doing anything. But yesterday he did come out for a town hall meeting, and for an hour, he was asked by citizens. He was asked by I think it was George George Stephanopoulos, I think, one of the reporter who was there hosting that. Not one single question about this. Not one. Hey Joe, is it true that you take half of the income from your family members like Hunter? Is that true? No one thought to ask that question, right? And what happened was, in case you don't know, the debate was canceled. Joe didn't want to debate Trump. So what they did was they had separate town halls. And you could not see a more stark difference between the two. The journalist who was hosting the Donald Trump one was combative, interrupted him just nonstop throughout the thing, and just asked ridiculous question after ridiculous question, pushing lie after lie after lie. Joe Biden's town hall, no serious hard-hitting questions asked. He was hardly interrupted at all, and he's just allowed to just repeat lie after lie after lie, and very often it's even parroted and backed up by the media. Now, in order to demonstrate that, I just want to offer you one little piece of evidence. In the first debate, Chris Wallace asked for the 900 millionth time, like, President Trump, will you denounce white supremacy? And the tone of the question is very much as if to suggest that he's never done it before. In that debate, Joe Biden said he's never ever done it. He's never denounced white supremacy. The journalist, again, at this town hall meeting, the very first question she asked was, Trump, will you finally denounce white supremacy? This has been done. Trump has done it over and over and over again. But Biden, Kamala Harris, and a whole bunch of other people just out there, and the media are lying, telling you, the American people, that he's never ever done it. Whereas it takes 20 seconds of searching to find a montage on YouTube of him doing it just dozens of times. And I'm going to show you a little bit here. There's many more examples of this. I think there's 3 or 4 examples of Trump condemning white supremacy, KKK, and all that nonsense in the strongest terms. And then I want you to see, just after that, there's the media lying about it. There's Joe Biden lying about it, and the media nodding along, just no one calling him out that it's false. Joe Biden, in his speech that he was going to, and when he announced he was going to run for president in this cycle, he said his primary reason was, and he repeated it during the first debate, was because Trump never denounced white supremacy, and that concerns him deeply. And not one journalist since has said, Joe, you know that's nonsense. But why don't you take a look for yourself? Here it is.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and strongly condemned the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, and the KKK.
So are you prepared right now to make a clear and unequivocal statement renouncing the support of all white supremacists?
Of course I am. Of course I am.
President Donald Trump signed a congressional joint resolution that condemns white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and other hate groups.
Any group of hate, I don't like it. Any group of hate, I am, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's any other kind of supremacy, whether it's Antifa, whether it's any group of hate, I am very concerned about it, and I'll do something about it. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
When he was asked to condemn white supremacists, he didn't.
Well, I have to say that it's disappointing that a sitting U.S. president can't outright condemn white supremacy.
The President of the United States in the year of our Lord 2020 refuses to condemn white supremacists.
He has yet once to condemn white supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing.
So, conspiracy number 3. Is the media there to speak truth to power? Is the media there to inform the citizens about what's going on in the world? Or is the media there to lie to you, to withhold the truth from you, to deliberately mislead you to believe falsehoods, to allow members of the criminal cartel to lie without ever questioning anything they say, and to constantly demonize, attack Trump, say lies about him, and make him look as bad as possible so that you're not going to vote for him? Which do you think is the more likely scenario out of what you've seen so far? They're fair and balanced, trying their best, or not? And before you answer that, just think about this concept. I mean, to be the host or the moderator at one of these debates, to be a host at the town hall, these people are supposed to be at the top of their game. These are supposed to be the best and fairest journalists in our entire country. It is their job, it's their profession to know exactly what has been said by President Trump and to make sure that their questions have been fact-checked before they're stupid enough to ask them over and over and over again. So you've got to ask yourself, is it an epidemic of grotesque incompetence by our best journalists? Or are they there actually doing their job perfectly? Their job is it's not what you think. It is there to run cover for their criminal cartel. It is there to confuse you. It is there to lie to you and make you believe complete and utter falsehoods so that business as usual in Washington, D.C. can continue to go on. Where they are feeding at the trough, all of these scumbags in Washington, feeding at the trough, the trillions of dollars that flow through there every single year from your tax money, handing it out to their friends, handing it out to foreign governments and taking it back as bribes. All of this stuff is happening. They're getting rich off it. They're feeding at the trough, and you're the dinner. Which do you think is most likely? That was conspiracy number 3. Conspiracy number 4. John Paul Mac Isaac takes possession of this of the laptops in April, 2019. He tells us that he gives a copy to the FBI in December of 2019. The FBI has this information along with everything else. Everything I'm showing you is in the public domain now, but they've had it since December of 2019. We would love to believe that the FBI and the men and women in there are just trying their very best to achieve law and order and prosecute criminals and put them in jail. That's their job. That's what we'd like to think they do. So let me ask you this, and by the way, the vast majority of the FBI agents, I'm sure, are just out there doing their job and stopping crime. This kind of stuff gets elevated to the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiers of the bureaucracy, right? There's very, very senior levels of the FBI, and they get to make decisions on this stuff. And there they are, and they're sitting on this information since December last year. We have an election coming up in which the person that the evidence shows is the head of a criminal cartel is about to become president of the United States. He's about to become chief executive of the FBI. He's about to put in place an attorney general whose job it will be to prosecute himself if the FBI does the investigation and has the evidence of this. If the FBI had its intentions pure and correct to seek justice, they would be rushing through this investigation. It would be incredibly important to them. They would know, they would need to have this information out there and arguably press charges before this person who is the accused becomes president and just sweeps it all under the rug and uses his position of power to protect himself from prosecution. Instead, they're sitting there on their hands. When asked is there investigation, they can neither confirm nor deny. And also, they're not sharing this information with the American people weeks before an election on the accused. All of this information is being held and secret, and they're sitting on their hands, and there's been no prosecutions. And they've got a long history of this. We all know, thanks to one of the greatest tweets in history by Trump, Every single person in the country knows Hillary Clinton is handed a subpoena. It's like there is enough. You don't get subpoenas just by doing nothing, right? There's some amount of smoke. Some judge somewhere thought there is enough evidence to suggest that there's a warrant valid to go and get the servers and investigate further to see if there was a crime. Hillary Clinton receives a subpoena to give the servers. There's no raid on her office to collect the servers like there would be in any other situation. No, you politely inform the accused criminal that we would really, really like you to turn over your evidence that we need to prosecute you, please, very, very soon. Thank you very much. And what happens? She destroys it. She gets busted destroying the evidence and never turns in this information which she was subpoenaed to do. Any other person on the planet would go to jail for that. We all know that these are the facts. And again, the FBI protected the senior member of a criminal cartel in Washington, D.C. So, question for you. Is the FBI just grotesquely incompetent and can't seem to get prosecutions, can't seem to make a case against these criminals? Or is their actual job by the senior officials of the FBI, their actual job is to protect the criminals as part of the criminal cartel? Is it to obfuscate all of the evidence, keep it hidden, say we're under investigation, run out the clock until their attorney general can be put in place, until their president can be put in place? What do you think is the most likely? That is conspiracy number 4. Guys, I mean, if you fully understand the gravity of what I'm explaining to you, you're talking about thousands of people. But moreover, you can't just get 1 or 2 people into the highest levels of the FBI in like a minute on a dime, like one appointment. What this reveals is that we're talking about years and years and years, administration after administration after administration, Republicans and Democrats putting their co-conspirators as head of the FBI, as second, third, fourth tier of management at the FBI, as at the CIA, at the NSA. All of these organizations, all of these institutions are run and head up by members of a criminal cartel. They are all feeding at the trough, and you are the dinner. How does this make you feel? What's going on in your head? Does all of a sudden it realize why there's no prosecutions? Like we managed to slip through, and very important to understand, both Republicans and Democrats, right? We have, by the way, Mitt Romney, heavily implicated. He also got financial benefit. His family members got financial benefit from the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian gas company. So we have Republicans in there. We have John McCain. So the last 2, prior to Trump, the last 2 Republican candidates for presidency, we have Mittens, his family members benefit from this Ukrainian gas nonsense as well. We also have, so John McCain, just year after year after year, pretending to fight Obamacare, saying he's not going to do it. In 2016, Trump gets the presidency. Trump gets the Congress by a landslide, and Trump gets the Senate by a small majority. I think it's 51 or 52 senators out of 100. He needs all the votes. And all of a sudden, there's John McCain and 1 or 2 others who refused to vote with the things that they all campaigned on and all promised to do. And they all said that they were going to do it year after year, even before Trump was running. And all of a sudden, they're not voting to end Obamacare and other things. We found a handful of traitors that were co-conspirators in the Republican Party. They were forced to show their hand to keep Trump from achieving the goals he wanted to achieve by not giving him the Senate majority. There are many, many more in the Republican Party, I can assure you. And the way we'll know is to vote Republican overwhelmingly so that a handful of them will be exposed. But hopefully we have so many numbers in the Senate and the Congress and the presidency after this next election that we can rout them all out. And the people there will hopefully, for the most part, be working for us. But this is a gigantic conspiracy. Republican Party, Democrat Party, FBI, NSA, CIA, all of it. The journalist class, the Silicon Valley, big tech being involved. This is an all-encompassing conspiracy. And as I said at the very beginning, what is so beautiful and poetic and delicious about this is that it's very, very rare that you get all four of these things exposed within 48 hours, all on one topic. Usually it's 6 months later, 12 months later, the information's all obfuscated, people can't join the dots, there's a psychological resistance to believing that it's this corrupt and this bad. No one wants to believe that they're the dinner, no one wants to believe that. And so it just gets pushed away and it's too hard to prove. I think in the space here of one video, we got a pretty good shot of a lot of people understanding the criminality that is happening. And so there we are. The next big question that we all have to ask is Trump part of it? Well, you've got to look at the way in which those conspiratorial players, the FBI, who's been investigating him for 3 years, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, who were pushed against him, the Never-Trumpers, the Washington faithful, pardon me, who have been making up accusations about him non-stop, all with no evidence over the last 3 years, leaking information, leaking false information, all about him. You've got big tech cancelling a lot of pro-Trump Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts, YouTube accounts. You've got them suppressing links that hurt Trump's opponents. You've got them ramping up links and stories that hurt Trump. You've got the mainstream media with just never-ending, outright lying, helping promote false information, constantly lying, years and years and years of falsehoods about Russiagate and this whole conspiracy that Trump got passed with flying colors. There's no evidence for whatsoever. All the evidence is there is to say that we, through a miracle of God, for all of Trump's failings, for all of his anything, for his personality, whatever you want, I don't care. I've conceded all at this point. No one cares. There's all the evidence to say he is not part of the criminal conspiracy. He can't be the head of the FBI, and he can't be the Attorney General, and he can't be 1,000 different things. He's come into the swamp, and it is so infected, and it is so corrupt and so disastrous that prosecuting the bad guys has proved very, very challenging and very, very difficult. And the only way we're going to do it is if there is an absolute tsunami of support for Trump, giving him an absolute incredible political capital to make this happen, and we can put some of the bastards in jail at least. And if you're having trouble believing just how horrific and just how complete the takeover of Washington has been by a criminal cartel who were there to exploit you, consider this. In 1954, Joe McCarthy went on a crusade to out the communists in the State Department in Washington, D.C. And what happened was he got a whole bunch of people in Washington, D.C. to go after and prosecute them and find them and expose them as communists working for the Communist Party against America's interests. And he never got a single prosecution. Now, what was revealed in 1989, 1991, the wall falls down, the Soviet Union collapses. And with the Soviet Union collapse, a whole bunch of documents are declassified in the Soviet Union. And what is revealed is that back in 1954, it's not that there were no communists to prosecute, it's that there were so many communists in the State Department and all other branches of government, and they named them. It's the materials are there. The information got declassified, and we know who they were. There were so many of them that McCarthy had chosen communists to go after the other communists. And what would happen is they would give, if there was enough evidence to prosecute someone, they would give someone a heads up and say, just quit, go along, and we'll make this all disappear. And they did. Coincidentally, some of the people went on, one of the big names, whose name I forget, he went on to become Dean of Admittance at Berkeley. Now an absolute Antifa communist hellhole where our kids go to get propagandized and indoctrinated into the theology of communism. So that's another gigantic component of this conspiracy, which was not one of the four that was exposed in the last 48 hours, so I left it out of this video. But guys, this is all starting to come together. We are in a fight for our life. If Trump is not elected in a massive, gigantic majority, and in the face of an incredible amount of voter fraud that is going to happen during this election, we are toast. They made one little mistake. They let the elections, they were in control of the Republican Party, they're in control of the Democrat Party. They gave you a choice between two people that they were controlling, and they didn't need to rig the general election. There was no need to, because they gave you the two candidates. By some freak of nature, some miracle, we have Trump come in flip the cart over in the Republican Party, and a complete outsider becomes the nominee for the Republican Party. And they didn't have any mechanism set up to steal that election, and Trump goes ahead and gets his foot in the door. He is the president of the United States. That is about to expire in a couple of months. Once he has gotten out, we will never ever have a fair election, general election ever again. I 100% guarantee it. The entire criminal cartel that is Washington, D.C. will never allow that to happen. And this country is lost once and for all. It is completely gone, and it will never, ever, ever recover. The American experiment will die. And a wave of darkness, corruption, and authoritarian control will sweep the world. That is what is at stake. Guys, I hope I've made a compelling video here for you. I would love it if you could, here we got the Pence fly just showed up, how about that? I would love it if you guys could share this like your life depends on it, because it does. Like this, like your life depends on it, because it does. Get it out to Twitter, get it out to Facebook, get it out to all of the sources. You have my permission to download this video, upload it to your own channel, do whatever it is you want with it, just leave it unedited and let it be, let people decide for themselves. I truly hope you work really, really hard to get this video out to people. Take care, and I'll see you soon.